She left me at the altar. And the world clapped. Not out of cruelty but out of spectacle. Because when the golden-haired angel everyone adored walked away from me in front of hundreds of guests, it was more than just heartbreak, it was primetime drama. The cameras flashed, whispers roared, and I stood there in my wedding dress like a porcelain doll cracked straight down the middle. My name is Emily Carter. I thought I knew what forever looked like. It looked like Claire, her soft laugh, her freckled cheeks, the way she used to kiss me like the world could burn around us and we would be just fine. But forever lasted exactly until the moment she turned her back on me, lifted her gown with trembling fingers and ran. The silence that followed was suffocating. I could feel every eye on me like I was a painting torn in half. Then out of nowhere came a voice. Sharp, cutting, commanding. She's not worth your tears. It was Vanessa Hale. If Claire was sunshine, Vanessa was steel. She was a billionaire, the youngest CEO in Manhattan, and every inch of her presence screamed danger and control. She had built an empire from nothing, and rumor had it she didn't just crush her enemies, she enjoyed it. And Claire? She despised her. The bad blood between them was legendary. Yet there she was, walking toward me in her black suit like the devil himself had shown up at my ruined wedding. And when she extended her hand, I had two choices. Collapse into the ashes Claire left behind or take it. I took it. Vanessa didn't waste time. The press is out there, she murmured as she escorted me past the horrified faces of my parents and the gleeful smirks of society vultures. They'll spin this like you were the fool. If you want to survive, marry me instead. I almost laughed. It was absurd. Marry the woman who had built her entire empire by cutting throats, the one Claire hated so much she would spit at the mention of her name? But what do you do when your entire future shatters in seconds? When humiliation sits heavy on your chest, and the only way to breathe is to fight back? I said yes. And that was the beginning of a war I never asked for. The tabloids called it revenge. The jilted bride marries the ice queen. The power play of the century. The wedding swap heard around the world. The truth was messier. Because behind the headlines, I was a broken woman trying to keep my spine straight. And Vanessa was more than the ruthless mask she wore for the world. She was sharp-tongued, yes, and her walls were sky-high. But there was something beneath them. Something I wasn't supposed to see. She hated Claire with every fiber of her being, but every time I asked why, she shut down. Her eyes would darken, her lips press into a thin line, and she'd change the subject. At night, in her penthouse overlooking Manhattan, I would hear her pacing when she thought I was asleep. She never said it, but I knew my face, my precinct reminded her of Claire. And yet she kept me close. Our first public appearance as wives was a gala. I wore a sleek black gown that clung to me like silk water, and Vanessa's hand never left the small of my back. To the world, we looked like a perfect power couple, strength and elegance entwined. But the whispers followed us everywhere. She's just a pawn. Vanessa's revenge trophy. She'll never survive in that world. By the third glass of champagne, my chest was on fire. I hated how they looked at me like I was fragile, disposable. Like I was nothing without Claire. When I slipped out onto the balcony for air, Vanessa followed. They'll keep talking, she said, leaning against the railing, her eyes on the city. But words can't kill you unless you let them. I snapped, bitterness spilling from me. Easy for you to say. You live off power. I'm just the girl who got abandoned in front of the world. She turned then, her gaze cutting straight through me. No. You're the girl who stood there, didn't crumble, and walked out with me. That takes more strength than you realize. For the first time, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Respect. Maybe even admiration. And for the first time, my heart betrayed me by beating just a little too fast. But love? No. That wasn't what this was. This was survival. This was two broken stories colliding in the messiest way possible. At least that's what I told myself. Because when Vanessa reached for my hand later that night, when her fingers lingered a second too long, I didn't pull away. And when I dreamed that night, it wasn't of Claire's laugh or her promises. It was of Vanessa, her fire, her fury, her unexpected softness she tried so hard to hide. I hated myself for it. But maybe, just maybe, I also wanted it. The night after the gala, I lay awake in Vanessa Hale's penthouse, staring at the ceiling that felt more like a sky full of unsaid words. The sheets smelled faintly of lavender and her perfume, sharp yet strangely comforting. I hated how much space she took up in my mind, how the echo of her voice clung to me even when she was silent. Claire's betrayal still clawed at me, raw and vicious, but Vanessa's presence had started to stitch over the wound in ways I didn't understand. She was supposed to be the villain of my story, the enemy Claire had warned me about over and over again. And yet, she was the one who had caught me when I fell. I rolled onto my side and glanced toward her. Vanessa was at her desk by the window, working under the dim light of a lamp. Her posture was straight, deliberate, but her eyes told another story, dark circles beneath them, her jaw tight with unspoken exhaustion. "Don't you ever sleep?" I whispered. She didn't look up. "Sleep is for people who aren't at war." I frowned. "Who are you fighting?" Her hand stilled on the papers. For a moment I thought she wouldn't answer. Then slowly she said, "Everyone." Her voice was steady, but the weight behind it was enough to crush stone. The days that followed were a strange mix of survival and performance. By day, Vanessa and I played our roles, the unshakable business queen and her elegant new wife. We attended meetings, charity events, dinners where every smile was a weapon and every gesture was judged. By night, the mask slipped, and I caught glimpses of the woman beneath the armor. She never admitted weakness, but she didn't have to. I saw it in the way her shoulders sagged when she thought no one was watching, in the way she lingered outside my bedroom door like she wanted to say something but never did. And then there were the whispers about Claire. I couldn't escape them. Reporters speculated about where she had gone, why she had run, who she was with. My parents refused to speak her name, as if erasing her could erase the shame. But Vanessa, she knew something. Every time Claire came up, her eyes burned with a hatred so fierce it scared me. Finally one night I asked, "Why do you hate her?" We were in the kitchen, the city quiet beyond the glass walls. Vanessa froze mid-pour, red wine glinting in the bottle. She set it down slowly and met my eyes. "Because she destroyed something I once believed in." It wasn't the answer I expected. Her voice was low, almost fragile. But before I could ask more, she shut down again, retreating behind her steel facade. "Don't dig into ghosts, Emily. They'll only hurt you." Weeks turned into months, and the strange dance between us grew sharper. We argued often, she with her icy control, me with my raw, wounded anger. But every argument ended the same way, closer than before, as if the fire between us could burn away the lies. One night, after a particularly brutal fight about Claire's name in the press, I slammed my hand on the marble counter. "You think I enjoy being compared to her every damn day? You think I don't hear the whispers that I'm just her shadow?" Vanessa's expression cracked just for a second. Then she moved closer, her voice low and trembling with restraint. "You're nothing like her. And don't you dare let anyone convince you otherwise." Her hand brushed mine, and in that electric moment, I realized something terrifying. She wasn't just protecting me for the cameras or for revenge. She was protecting me because she wanted to, because she cared. The first time she kissed me, it wasn't planned. It wasn't for show. It happened in the back of her town car after a grueling fundraiser. We were both exhausted, our public smiles worn thin. I had leaned my head against the window, eyes closed, when suddenly I felt her hand slip over mine. "Emily," she whispered, my name sounding like a confession on her lips. I turned to her, and before I could ask what she wanted, she kissed me. Fierce, desperate, as if she'd been holding back for far too long. My heart hammered against my ribs. My mind screamed that this was wrong, that I was betraying myself, betraying the memory of what Claire and I had. But my bottomy soul answered differently. I kissed her back. The days after that kiss blurred with confusion. We didn't talk about it. We didn't need to. Every glance, every accidental touch was heavier, charged with something neither of us dared to name. But with closeness came danger. Claire had disappeared from the public eye, but her ghost haunted us both. And when whispers emerged that she was back in New York, everything we had built, fragile, complicated, maybe even beautiful, teetered on the edge of collapse. Because no matter how much I tried to bury the past, no matter how much I started to crave Vanessa's presence, Claire still held a piece of me. And Vanessa knew it. The night the news broke, Vanessa stormed into the penthouse, her face a storm. She threw a tabloid on the table, Claire's face staring up at us, smiling in the arms of another woman. "She doesn't deserve your tears," Vanessa spat, her voice colder than ice. I stared at the photo, my chest tightening. Claire. The woman who had left me shattered. The woman I had once sworn to love until death. And yet, seeing her now radiant and untouched by the wreckage she left behind, I didn't feel love. I felt anger. I felt betrayal. I felt the sharp, undeniable pull toward the woman standing across from me instead. I lifted my eyes to Vanessa. She was trembling not with rage but with fear. Fear that I might run back, that her walls had been lowered for nothing. I stepped forward, closing the space between us. She left me, I whispered, my voice breaking. You didn't. And when I touched her face, when her lips crashed against mine again, I knew. The war wasn't against Claire anymore. It was against the part of myself that had to learn how to love again. And Vanessa Hale was winning. Secrets don't stay buried in New York. They linger in the cracks of skyscrapers, whispered between champagne glasses, sold to tabloids hungry for blood. And eventually they find their way to the surface. I didn't know it yet, but the night I saw Claire's picture in the tabloids smiling in someone else's arms wasn't the end of her story in my life. It was the beginning of a storm that would rip apart everything I thought I knew about Vanessa, about Claire, about myself. Because what Vanessa never told Meth's secret that lived behind her steel gaze was that she and Claire weren't just enemies. They were history. The first crack in the truth came late one evening. I had wandered into Vanessa's private office while she was out on a call, curious about the pieces of her she never showed anyone. Her shelves were lined with awards, contracts, photos of boardrooms and skyscrapers. But tucked between a stack of leather-bound ledgers I found it. A photograph. It was old, slightly faded. Two young women, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. One of them was unmistakably Claire, her golden hair, her freckled smile, the very same expression that used to make me believe in forever. The other was Vanessa. Younger, softer, with none of the ice in her eyes. They looked happy. Too happy. My stomach dropped. The photo slipped from my fingers just as Vanessa's voice cut through the air. What are you doing? I turned, guilt burning hot on my face. What is this? I demanded, holding up the photo. Her jaw tightened. For the first time, the unshakable Vanessa Hale looked cornered. That, she said slowly, is none of your business. The hell it isn't. My voice broke, shaking with betrayal. You've hated her from the moment I met you. You despise her. And all this time you knew her? You were friends. Her eyes hardened. Not friends. Then what? I snapped. The silence that followed was unbearable. Finally, she whispered. She was the first woman I ever loved. The world tilted beneath me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to crumble onto the floor and never get up. Claire, the woman who had abandoned me, humiliated me, destroyed me, had been the center of Vanessa's heart once too. Why didn't you tell me? I choked out. Because it doesn't matter anymore, Vanessa said, her voice low and controlled, but her hands trembled at her sides. She betrayed me. She used me. And when I had nothing left to give, she walked away. Just like she did to you. The fury in her words was real. The wound was still bleeding even after all these years. You hated her, I whispered. No, Vanessa said, her eyes burning into mine. I loved her. And when love turns to hate, it's the kind of hate you can never forgive. I staggered back, the photo shaking in my hand. Suddenly, everything between us, the marriage, the alliance, the way she protected me, the way she kissed, might all blurred into a mess of motives I couldn't untangle. Did you marry me? I asked, my throat tight. Because you cared about me? Or because I was her? Her face cracked with something raw, something dangerous. Don't you dare reduce yourself to her shadow. Don't you dare think you're just a stand-in. Then what am I, Vanessa? I shouted, my voice breaking. Because right now, I don't know if I'm your wife or your revenge. Her silence cut deeper than any answer. That night I couldn't stay. I slipped out of the penthouse and walked the streets of Manhattan in my evening gown, mascara running down my cheeks. The city swallowed me whole, neon lights blurring with tears. Claire. Vanessa. My heart was a battlefield between two women who had both broken me in different ways. One had abandoned me, the other had lied to me. And two was the fool caught between their history, their hatred, their unfinished war. I found myself standing outside a small bar downtown, the kind where no one cared who you were. I ordered whiskey and drank until the world felt less sharp. But when I stumbled out into the night air, I found her waiting. Vanessa. Her driver stood back, the car idling, but she was there on the sidewalk, her black suit immaculate even in the harsh streetlights. You shouldn't be out here alone, she said, her voice rough with something almost like desperation. I laughed bitterly. Why? Afraid I'll run into Claire? Or are you afraid I'll finally realize I'm nothing but a replacement? Her eyes flinched at that, and for the first time since I'd met her she looked vulnerable. You're not a replacement, she said quietly. You're the first thing that's felt real in years. Her words cut through me because I wanted to believe them. God, I wanted to. But trust was a fragile thing, and mine had already been shattered twice. I turned away. I don't know if I can believe you. And I walked back into the city, leaving her standing alone under the neon glow. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Vanessa didn't push, didn't demand. She gave me space, but the distance hurt more than any fight. Every time I saw her across the penthouse, papers in her hand, glasses on her nose, I felt the ache of something breaking inside me. But the storm wasn't done with us, because Claire came back. It was at a charity gala, of all places. I was at Vanessa's side, my hand looped through her arm, the cameras flashing like wildfire. And then I saw her. Claire. She walked in like she owned the room, golden hair shimmering, her new lover on her arm. But when her eyes found me and then Vanessa, something flickered across her face. Guilt. Regret. Maybe even fear. Vanessa's grip on me tightened like steel. Her voice was low, venomous. Stay calm. But I couldn't. My chest was collapsing, my heart pounding as Claire started toward us. The past and the present were about to collide. And I knew in that moment that whatever happened next would change everything. The moment Claire walked toward us, the gala went silent. The music still played, glasses still clinked, but the air itself seemed to freeze. People parted like waves, their eyes wide with hunger for scandal. Her golden hair gleamed beneath the chandeliers. Her lips curved into that same smile that had once made me believe in forever. But behind it I saw something else. A flicker of hesitation. A shadow of guilt. Emily, she breathed when she reached me, her voice trembling just enough for me to notice. I felt Vanessa stiffen beside me. Her hand gripped mine so tightly it hurt, a silent anchor holding me against the storm. What are you doing here, Claire? Vanessa's voice was sharp enough to slice through glass. Claire ignored her. Her eyes, those familiar, ocean blue eyes, were locked on me. I made a mistake, she whispered. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life. The words should have broken me. Months ago they would have shattered me to pieces. But now, standing there in the fire of her regret, I didn't feel what I thought I would. There was no relief, no aching hope. Only anger. Only the sting of every tear I had cried while she was gone. You humiliated me in front of the world, I said, my voice shaking with fury. You left me standing there like I was nothing. And now you think you can just walk back in and what? Pick up where we left off. Claire flinched, but she pressed on. I was scared, Emily. I didn't know how to be brave enough for us. But I love you. I always loved you. Stop lying, Vanessa hissed. The venom in her voice startled everyone nearby. Claire turned on her, her mask slipping, revealing the raw bitterness beneath. You don't get to speak, she spat. You ruined me, Vanessa. You stole everything I built, turned people against me, destroyed my career. You've wanted me broken from the beginning. I froze. My gaze snapped to Vanessa. Is that true? For once, Vanessa didn't look untouchable. Her jaw clenched, her shoulders rigid. I didn't ruin her. She ruined herself. But Claire laughed bitterly. She hasn't told you, has she? The world narrowed around me. Told me what? And then with the precision of a dagger, Claire said, that the first time she loved me, she also betrayed me. She leaked my designs, sold my ideas, crushed my company just so she could rise higher. That's who you're married to, Emily. The woman who would burn anyone to win, including me. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. I stared at Vanessa, my heart thundering. Tell me she's lying. Vanessa's eyes met mine, and in them I saw the truth. The silence was the answer. You did it, I whispered. My chest hollowed out, my lungs refusing air. You destroyed her. Her voice was low, broken. I had nothing. She had everything. And when she left me, I swore I'd never be powerless again. The pain in her eyes was real, but so was the betrayal. I staggered back, my heart ripping in two. I was trapped between two women, one who had abandoned me, and one who had saved me, only to betray someone else to get here. What do I even mean to either of you? I cried. Am I just a weapon? A prize? A mirror of your mistakes? Claire reached for me. You're my heart. Vanessa whispered, almost too soft to hear. You're my salvation. And suddenly I realized, it wasn't about them. It was about me. The rest of the gala blurred into chaos. People whispering, cameras flashing, headlines writing themselves in real time. I ran. Out of the ballroom, down the marble steps, into the cool night air. I didn't stop until I reached the street. My gown snagged on the pavement, my shoes cutting into my feet, but none of it mattered. What mattered was that I had to choose. Not between Claire and Vanessa, but between the past and the future. The next morning, the penthouse was quiet. Vanessa sat at the dining table, untouched coffee in front of her, the weight of a woman who had finally run out of battles pressing on her shoulders. I won't beg, she said as I walked in. If you leave, I'll understand. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled against the cup. For the first time since I met her, Vanessa Hale, the woman who owned half of Manhattan, looked utterly, painfully human. I sat down across from her. The silence stretched. You hurt her, I said. You betrayed her. And she hurt me. Both of you left scars I'll carry forever. She nodded once, her throat tight. I know. But, I continued, my voice softening, you stayed. When I broke, when the world laughed, you stayed. You've been cruel, yes. Ruthless. But you've also been the only one who never left me standing alone. Her eyes lifted to mine, hope flickering in the storm. I don't know if I can forgive everything, I whispered. But I know I don't want to walk away from you. The relief that washed over her was sharp and almost painful. She reached across the table, her hand trembling as it found mine. I will spend the rest of my life proving I can be worthy of you, she said. And for the first time I believed her. Weeks later, the tabloids spun their stories. Some painted me as a fool, others as a survivor. Claire disappeared again, this time by choice, leaving no trace but memories I no longer needed. Vanessa and I rebuilt slowly, painfully, honestly. She showed me her scars, the mistakes she could never erase, and I showed her mine. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And one quiet evening, as the city glowed beneath us, Vanessa slipped a ring onto my finger, not for the cameras, not for revenge, but for us. Stay, she whispered. I smiled through my tears, leaning into her warmth. Always. Because sometimes love isn't about who you first fall for. It's about who stands by you when the world crumbles. And in the ashes of heartbreak, I found a love that was fierce, flawed, and finally mine. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.